Hey everybody, this is Carl back again for another TV show spoiler review, and I will be covering uh, season 2 of The Bad Batch, Star Wars: The Bad Batch. I just wrapped up just yesterday, and I want to do this review now. Normally I'll wait at least at least another day, but I'm gonna be kind of busy Saturday. But I wanted to talk about this now, so full on spoilers to season to the season. Now, look, I love the characters in Clone Force 99. I love Omega. It's just that here's my major problem with this, and most well, at least in its case, Star Wars related stories, and it's been doing this type of thing for like I gotta say ever since the Boba Fett show. It is in a Boba Fett show, a little bit in The Mandalorian season 3. I don't know about the Kenobi series, somewhat not as extensive, but it's just that the focus isn't on the thing that needed to be the focus on. I mean, I think Andor is probably like the exception to the rule a bit, because it's more like political intrigue, espionage type of thriller situation. Because you rarely even see like actual stormtroopers like that. Usually just straight up Imperial officers and proto rebel people, which personally, like, it wasn't until halfway through Andor that actually, because check out my full-on spoiler review on Andor. I go into complete discussion in my feelings in that, but I didn't get on board until like maybe halfway through it. But overall, it's just not my particular Star Wars, and that's gotta be something that people gotta understand. Like, not everybody's Star Wars is gonna be everybody's Star Wars, because I like the whole Jedi stuff. I like the whole Mandalorian stuff, and clashing with like the Empire and things like that, and the Rebel fighters. But this covert espionage thingamajig with Andor, I wasn't really feeling like that. Aside from the Mon Mothma stuff, because I'm familiar with her, and that's my only anchor to the show. What I like about Star Wars personally, because mostly everybody else is involving people that's gonna die in like in the next in Star Wars Andor timeline wise is by at least a year or two at max, depending on where it's supposed to be setting. So it's like, I can't get invested along the way, because I won't say I don't care, but I'm just not completely invested. Like, where it's always kind of going, and where it's gonna go, and it's like, okay, yep, and it's like the Mon Mothma stuff. I didn't. There's things like that I didn't know about that. I'm like, okay, I want to kind of stick to this story. What's going on with this? Here, to circle back around, it's just the major problem with season 2 right now is they veering off on these side quest BS, and it's like I didn't mind it so much in season 1, because you're pretty much getting your footing. You get to know these people a little bit deeper than you did in like the couple of episodes that they appeared in Clone Wars. And, but now it's just like, okay, you're still messing. I don't like the Sid character. See, like I said, just part of the only time she was actually even required was in season 1, because there was just wandering aimlessly, and they need to make some money in order to be able to get some place away from the Empire, that kind of stuff. But it's like, okay, by season 2, like, y'all should be making, a decent amount of coin. Yeah, it's probably, things, jobs get botched and everything like that, but it's like, there's some, I won't say a time skip, but it's like, you see Omega's slightly older, she, with the hair growing longer, so like time is passed somewhat, maybe like, a few, like, several months to a year tops. But it's like you keep messing around the Sid character. They even put it out that, like, every time you're working with Sid, it doesn't always, go well, because she give you like these so vague information that will lead you into trouble because she got other agendas. It's like, why you keep messing around with her? And like, oh well, she can easily turn us in. Like, anyone can easily turn you in. And it's like, you wearing armor is not very inconspicuous, but it's just like, it's like, that character is, kind of annoying. More often than not, she berates them, and you gotta remind her all the good stuff you did. Like, you don't even have to even deal with that kind of, you're in essentially a toxic relationship. Why you mess around with her? And you go on these little, missions that, like, what's the point? And sure, they got like little stories involving them, like one with this Wookiee Jedi youngling. Okay, but it's like, you can tell that exact same story without involving Sid. Like, they're trying, because this the the bulk of the thing with Hunter is like trying to maybe consider putting Omega's feelings in consideration about finding some roots so she can like have some kind of normalcy in her life without the threat of danger, if not from the Empire, but on these like crazy adventures that children should not be involved in. And it's okay, like I don't know, they're trying to give them, I won't say give them stories to like, I don't know, it's Clone Wars show did it better, where it's like in like arcs. Like I said, like the Clone Wars did like a better job for the most part. There's like, I did each season of Clone Wars on my channel, which you can check out on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/talkativecarl. I did all that early last year, and there was a couple of seasons that like I did not care for at all. But the one thing I gotta give the show credit on was that you had focus. There's 2 to 3 episodes where you focus on one or two particular characters and their part in the war, even with like just the clones, without even focusing on the Jedi stuff. Your primary focus is on them. You learn about Commander Cody and Rex and their stuff with them, and all that going on. You don't have that with this, and it's like that's a kind of like a problem, because half of the episodes I don't care, and more egregiously with Crosshair, it's like you got 2 episodes dedicated to this guy, both really good, but it's like you could focus half of the stuff with what's going on with Crosshair, and the other half with like Bad Batch. And it's like, I don't know, it's like trying to rewrite the show, but it's like you know, like at least a couple of episodes into the season, they should be like, okay, this is the last job. I don't want to do this. We don't want to work with you anymore. That kind of thing. And like right in a way is, you know, because they make it seem like, you know, Sid got that hooks into them. Like, why? Like, you know, if you write in a way to make it seem like, you know, Sid actually, I don't know, in her own way care about them, and then she's trying to force a way to keep them around or something. But you know, yeah, Sid's like essentially using them, but is, I don't know, you don't, they're not doing a great job to maybe even care about Sid in any way. You doing everything you can to making sure like, what's the point of this character? There's no point to this character anymore outside, oh, she's like, you know, the person that's handing out the missions to facilitate the story that they're going to be involved in. You can do that without her. And it's like they try to, you know, because at one point they land on a place, because this is like treasure hunter, you know, voiced by, you know, Wanda Sykes, who has a thing for tech. Clearly has a thing for him, and like establish like this, you know, they went to this island where she's, you know, or this planet with this, you know, kind of Galapagos island type of situation. It was very kind of those Greek Galapagos kind of situations, and it's nice, you know, thriving port of an area, and it looks cool. Like you could probably establish this early on, and like have this woman to be like the new Sid, and then you meet this mayor, and they're setting like a foothold here. They don't have no you know, ties with Sid anymore, and they done all they can with this person, but they kind of severed their ties, you know, amicably, whatever. And then they have this new treasure hunter, and that's been established already, and the mayor is saying like, oh, there's certain things, you know, we need for the place, you know, and they go off on their missions on this mission to get something for like the people or whatever. They're essentially like outlaws, good outlaws, and they're trying to like, you know, use their skills in order to, because everybody else, you know, they're normal civilians. They don't have like training. And then you can also include ones where like Hunter and the gang are, you know, teaching them survival tactics in case something happens. They can better prepare themselves, even though they're living a peaceful life. But it couldn't hurt to have that in their repertoire in case something going on where they're not around. You can like, you know, really fill in, you know, some episodes with that kind of stuff. But then like with someone with Crosshairs, one of the characters that people have been highly interested in seeing what you will do after you left things at the end of season 1. What is the development with Crosshair now? And like what you did with him was cool, but you only dedicated 2 episodes with this guy. And it's like you could have like established his, because that's another major component in this show. Like if you focus on the main narrative and not the side quest BS, where it's like the clones, like this is, you know, the government, you know, senator that we saw in the Clone Wars, where she's like a little kid, but what's her name? Senator Ryuchuchi, who's now like a young adult at this point, like in her late teens and her young adult years, somewhere between that time, because she was like, you know, almost like Omega's age when we first introduced to her in the Clone Wars series. And she's like, you know, she's her own woman, she's, you know, leading, she's trying to, you know, essentially this like real world situations, trying to make sure these soldiers or veterans essentially are treated well, because, you know, we're technically in peacetime, despite them their weariness on Palpatine and his big brother mentality with these Imperial officers. You know, because like in Andor, when you focus on like Mothma and the people around her, it's like, they're, they always seem to be, it doesn't seem like you're feeling it's like peacetime. It seems like you're just being watched all the time, or being forced into submission, or you're under a dictatorship under the guise of a peaceful times. You don't feel free, kind of thing. And you got Rex, who's bringing in Echo on his team to try to fix things, via like in secret in Coruscant, working with the senator, when some of these clones are starting to like see like, okay, hey, we're not being treated equally, because there's a lot of like very racist tones from these Imperial officers, where they think of these clones as less than human, because, oh, you're just clones, you're not even a real person, y'all are a derivative of one real person. And that's the thing that's like really, it's like, wow, like, like Star Wars, has a racist kind of moments throughout its franchise, ironically, considering there's like real world racist people who treated the actors involved in this property, like the woman who played Rose in Last Jedi, and the person who played that the Sith lady, forgot her name, in the Kenobi series, and the crap she had to go through. Super ironic. But it's just like they're trying to recruit, Rex and Echo trying to recruit like the clone troopers who are starting to get wise on how they're, first of all, being treated as less than, and also the revelation of what they did to their Jedi allies, and like the galaxy as a whole, planet to planet, like doing things that they originally would never do years ago during the Clone Wars, where they occupying spaces and terrorizing essentially citizens in a way, like taking them from the lands or pillaging their lands or whatever like that. For oh, thanks for the follow, Fix MLB. It's just like I said, it's like I don't know, the bulk of the season was just side quest crap. It was like how many times they stuck to the show. It's the last two episodes, the 2 episodes with Crosshair, one, so it's like 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, there's actually just maybe like 4 episodes, 4 or 5 episodes where there's all side quest stuff. But it just feels like unfocused. They, first of all, 16 episodes in each season. They needed, just like in the live shows, they need to trim it down so that way they can. You talking about Mando? No, I'm talking about the Bad Batch season 2. Hopefully you saw it, because if you didn't, this is full on spoiler. So you can like watch that first before you come in here, because I'm just spoiling everything right now. But I remember talking with some people, and a couple of them are in agreement about the unfocusedness of season 2. It's not that it was bad, overall. It's still great writing, but it's just like some of the episodes you obviously don't really care about, or at the very least, even if it's kind of like filler kind of situations, it's not a good filler episode to me, in my opinion, has to feed into the overall narrative in some capacity, and doesn't feel like that in some of these episodes. It seems like, you're feeling the time to like you're you're trying to like come up with other stuff for the the more focused ones. Anyway, the clones, like we were talking about, like how cool would it be? Because sometimes Star Wars was shied away from some of the kind of like heavy stuff, or even graphic stuff sometimes, where it's like, since the clones, because they're trying to, the Palpatine and the others are gonna be kind of like Order 66, but it's like a different order now, whereas now that we're recruiting more independent people, but they got like essentially recruiting, if you've seen like a lot of these like stormtroopers in like the original trilogy and sequel trilogy and Mandalorian, they're essentially like just behaving like thugs. I don't want to say thugs, but like type of soldiers that's like can like drunk on their little power, and or like recruiting. If you know the story of the Star Wars and how they recruit like stormtroopers, it's like getting them when they're young and instilling that kind of imperialistic mindset into them, so now they grow up with into the fold more hardened to like their emotions. There's some cases where doesn't, that empathy still ekes through when like it come into realization, like these clones come to the realization of the horrors that they committed. And I spoke with some friends, it's like, how cool would it be if these clones, since they're essentially waking up to the atrocities to what they're doing, they're realize, because they're following like a programming instilled into them thanks to Palpatine long ago, where it's like once they execute Order 66, that little sleeper agent kind of thing happens, they do their thing, and now time is passed, they come to realize like, oh my god, I slaughtered a whole bunch of people, my allies and ordinary citizens that would pose no threat to me. And it's like, you see that with Commander Cody with Crosshairs, where it's like, you could say we were following orders, but it's like you're blindly following orders without any empathy. You may be soldiers, but not monsters. And it's just there's a lot in there where we can just put in our energy into. So it's just like, I don't know, and it did leave on like a bit of a cliffhanger with Tech, who in the part one of the last two episodes seemingly sacrifices themselves so the rest of the team can survive, which in all honesty I don't think that will stick. It'll be actually surprising in the third season if he actually is legitimately dead, but I highly doubt that. And they're trying to rescue Crosshairs, who finally kind of, after an episode where he's in a snowy mountain and you see this Imperial officer mistreating a fellow clone trooper, and it's like they've been standing like in this outpost on this frozen wasteland guarding. And this was trippy. This is one of my favorite episodes, in all honesty, is the fact that the realization that it was like all his he only had a good platoon of men, but because they've been there for so long, without any if little to no support coming their way, surviving on just rations with barely getting any kind of like you know you know necessities that they would need to push on, down to the last, only him and two others. Then you got these bandits sneaking in, raiding their stuff, and end up, he's the only one left. So it's him and Crosshair, who has to go venture out by themselves with no support from the Imperial side. Like, I put in all this, doing this for you guys. Like, I'm following orders. I just need your help and everything like that. Your government essentially abandoning you, and it's like, well, you're troopers. You're there to live and die for the Empire. Like, what you care doesn't matter kind of attitude. So because in last season, Cross is always talking about like good soldiers follow orders, and now that his eyes are now open with like seeing like what the Empire, just how they mistreated their brothers who were following orders. They're doing their job, but at the very least you can do is make sure that you honor your end of things to make sure we're good. But you're treating them less than like cattle. And so he shoots that guy after his fellow trooper perishes trying to protect crates filled with new trooper armor, not meant for them, which will still be bad, but meant for essentially their replacements, which is the normal stormtroopers that we're familiar with. And that was so disheartening to see that. And it's like the look on Crosshair's face when it's like all that, just protect stuff that's gonna be used for our replacements. Like, we're just disposable, so disposable to this point. And it's like, oh my god, it was that was the probably like I said, the best episode of this season in my opinion. But my second best would probably be the one with Senator Chuchi. But I love the interaction with her and Omega. And Omega, I get she's still kind of a child, but there's moments where she's kind of grating to me. Not voice wise, but it's just certain behaviors. Like when Echo has to, I get it, she didn't really grow up with like a true family. She's like essentially like, she's a clone, essentially, just a female version of one. And one of the scientists that's working with a head scientist to essentially extract information from Crosshair turns out to be like Omega, just like a grown-up female version of Omega. Well, we don't know if that's an actual clone. I've seen like some speculation that she might be the female donor, essentially. It was kind of like mixing two DNAs to make children, and it's not just solely Jango Fett they was using. It was there was like a female component to it, and she might be that, is the speculation for now. And I think it's voiced by the same actress, but she is using more I guess her normal speaking voice, while using for Omega is a little bit more like a little bit lighter in tone. But I had a feeling, because like certain characters are too distinct in certain shows to say like, oh, there's one off people that you don't really care about. No, if you give them a distinct look, they gonna be playing a significant role at some capacity. Otherwise you'll be just like and at certain moments you see officers in the Clone Wars where they got like these hats on where you don't even see their eyes and stuff like that, they don't mean nothing. They're like clone troopers. It's like you're faceless people that you won't care when they die. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, the show still got quality writing, but I think that's the problem with Disney lately. I know they got a shift in the guard as of recently, but and especially with like the Marvel stuff, they're like toning things down because like you're overworking your people trying to provide quantity over the quality. And it's not saying like, you know, there's no quality whatsoever, but it's just like you can't overdo it. Like 16 episodes I think is too much, especially if you're not being focused, because I think like more, unless there's an actual story to tell, because you gotta have like a full arcing thing. Okay, this is not like one of those sitcoms where you got one off episode adventure kind of things. Even with like Jedi Tales of the Jedi, where there's honestly smartly played, where it's like there's shorts where you can easily just be one-off episodes telling a different story, but it's done so well. It's like tight, but you get your beginning, middle, and end within that tight 15 minutes. And but the you know, it's like 6 episodes in total, but half of it is dedicated to one particular character you focus on, and the other is dedicated to focusing on another particular character in these 15-minute shorts. The Dooku one is probably the more interesting one. Even though I like Ahsoka, it was only one episode where I think it was like pretty dope, where it's like having Anakin teach her how to really fight, and that evolves in, you know, bearing fruit when Order 66 happens and she's defending herself, and she's using the training given to her by Darth Vader essentially in order to be able to fight back and survive. And that's the whole thing. Like, you know, like Anakin's teaching her how to survive. It's not teaching her how to necessarily fight. This is teaching her how to survive. But I didn't really care for the Ahsoka stuff because we're going to get the bulk of Ahsoka's you know, story and mental state and everything like that in her own show that's coming up soon. You could have just focused on like a character that we barely get much of. In fact, Tales of the Jedi should, you know, I've always been saying like there should be a show kind of like Clone Wars, which kind of like feed into helping making the prequels look better. There should be a show dedicated to making the sequel trilogy better, you know, just to make everything coherent and somewhat palpable. But anyway, they, you know, like the, you know, quality over quantity kind of situations. Like, yeah, sure, 16 episodes is good enough if you have a legit story to tell that will fill up that time and it's focused on the overarching narrative that you're talking about this season. I don't need like you're trying to go to this you know, treasure hunting thing with this treasure hunter. I don't care about, you know, this trying, you know, you accidentally waking up this kaiju thing, and then oh, the great thing about like, you know, Omega, it's like, you know, Tech has to go and help Rex out with something, and it's like, you know, I'm sad, and I get you're a kid and you don't understand, but you're what, 13, 14 at this point. It's like, you know, I'm sad because you're leaving me, and it's like I'd never have a family, and you're my family now, and now you're just going to leave me. And it's like, oh, Tech, you're not empathizing with me, so like I hate you now. And it's like, kid, get a clue. You know, it's like you're in the thick of it. You know what at stake is and why he needs to, you know, do more. And it's like you're pouting for an entire episode, and it's like, you know, I don't know. It's just certain shifts in like that need to be made with the show, because I like the show enough, because even before season 1 came out, and I admitted this in my season 1 spoiler review that you can obviously check out on the channel, on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/talkativecarl, that I, like I like the, Bad Batch well enough, but it's just like I was pleasantly surprised how good it is. But it's like, man, it's like, who really want a Bad Batch show? It's like, maybe because then I got quickly turned around on it. It's like, okay, yeah, it's not only quality stuff, same kind of, almost the same kind of stuff that it just kind of built on top of what we got from the Clone Wars series. And I quickly turned around on that. Unlike Andor, where it's like, once again, it's like, why do we need this kind of situation? But with Bad Batch, I can see that, oh, this could be a show that can be used to set up how like the rebels really got a leg up and became like a legitimate force fighting the Empire. But I guess that's the point with Andor, I guess. But it's like, I checked it out because I wanted to give it a fair shake. I didn't. It's kind of like with like the Joker movie. It's like I can't just poo it just because I didn't like the premise or the idea of it. Now, I still don't think that we don't need any kind of separate Joker stuff, even with the sequel with like business suit Harley Quinn with Lady Gaga. It's like, okay, but I probably won't even go see that. I want to see, like, I went to go see the first Joker, and I was like, yeah, begrudgingly, I admit, like, yeah, it's actually pretty dang good. Even though I don't think a Joker origin story is needed. I don't think Andor overall is needed. We already know enough about Cassian and what he's gonna be a part of, and it's like he's gonna die in a year or so. It's like, why do we give a F that about the in-between stuff? It can look good and the story can be told, but overall my interest is it's like it's like how it's like being spoiled, and then you decide to give them, like, you're reading a book and somebody spoiled how like you trying to get into Harry Potter, right? And somebody just tells you, oh, him and Voldemort are getting this one, like this, like a clash with Wand versus Wand, and like what's his name cuffed the head of the Voldemort snake and everything like that, and they beat back the evil forces, which like the good guy's gonna win, but you don't know the details, and you hear that part. But then they decide to like give you how Harry Potter even got into the Ministry in the first place. It's like, cool, but you know how it's gonna end. It's kind of like takes away the bit of the journey, in my opinion, because like part of the journey is the end. It's like, you gotta come to an end at some point. The journey can be all fun and games and everything like that. You learn something, but it's like, yeah, but when's Voldemort gonna come in? When's gonna like starts killing Snape and all that stuff is happening at the end? But it's like, how can I get invested with stuff with Snape when he's gonna die soon? So that's how I feel with like the Andor thing. Like, I really don't feel invested with the guy we know is gonna die soon. And it's like, whatever. But this I got turned around on. Bad Batch is a solid show, but they gotta trim out the episodes so we can focus on what is needed with like going with the clone troopers, how they're gonna be weeded out, how they're gonna help fight back, which I imagine they're gonna help build the Rebel Alliance at some point. Even in the most recent episode of Mandalorian, slight spoils for that, we get to see one of the characters from Rebels. I forgot the guy's name. Crap. Like, uh, Uh, Zeb, that was the guy. I was about to say Sid again, but they're tying this all together. Was showing that Zeb's part of the Rebel Alliance, and it's like I guess that's the point of the Rebel show in Canada. Even then, you know, it's not one of my favorite Star Wars stories, a series. It didn't really until halfway through season two, it didn't get somewhat good. But overall, I think the Clone Wars series, in terms of animation, is probably the ones that's like top tier, and Bad Batch is probably like below that. But Rebels is like it had its moments. But anyway, I just want to bring up about I just want to talk about Bad Batch and what my thoughts on quickly with that. But as it's like my only criticism is just pretty much keep the focus and probably trim down the episodes if that would help, so that way we don't be because these things come out week to week, and it's like you're giving us like 2 weeks in a row of slow pace like side stuff of things that honestly people probably wouldn't give a crap about. Waking up some kind of giant mechanized war machine and then like crashing through this forest, and you gotta stop it before it runs into this town. And I was like, okay. Or helping out these like miners, dealing with some wicked like mob boss overseer that's like taking all the food and giving them little rough scraps if one of them works hard over the other. It's like, God, we see this so many times. A and B is like, why do we care? And C, like, why was this episode even created? And it's like, it doesn't help matters none. And it's like, how do they feed in the overall narrative? It doesn't. I can see maybe the Jedi Wookiee youngling might fit into the overall narrative if you so choose to write it that way. But it's like the Quarry people, who cares? I don't know. It's like they gotta keep the focus. That's the overall thing I'm trying to get at. But anyway, that is my thoughts on Bad Batch season 2. In a few minutes I'll be going over a couple of movies for this week's reviews, and then I got a discussion video I've been sitting on for a moment, but I wanted to like at least do it before International Women's Month is over. Something we want to do for a hot minute, so stay tuned for that. So I'll see you guys in a few minutes. So don't forget to leave a like on my YouTube channel once this hits my page. Definitely like MLB the show did. Like, follow me here on Twitch, as well as check out my Patreon, where you have like certain suggestions for certain topics or reviews that you want me to cover for my YouTube channel. I'll definitely give you a shout out and make it like a Patreon, first members viewing. Then, eventually I'll put it up on YouTube. But also follow me on Twitter. And of course, my YouTube channel, youtube.com/TalkativeCarl, where I got a bunch of reviews and video game walkthroughs like Hogwarts Legacy and RE4 Remake that I'm currently going through. It's up on the channel as well. So, and I'm also doing if I'm close to my 400 subscriber goal on my YouTube channel. Once we reach that, I will be doing like a Hot Ones challenge video to celebrate the milestone, where I'll answer tons of questions via like YouTube, Twitter, and try to actually buy the hot sauces from the show, try them out as I'm answering all your questions. as well. So I think that'll be very fun for you and I, somewhat, depending on how hot those hot sauces is. Anyway, I'll see you guys in a little bit.